I had spent most of my life in Oakville, a small town where everyone knew each other's business and secrets could suffocate you like a thick fog. I sat cross-legged on my bed, the faded blue quilt wrinkled beneath me, my fingers tracing the edges of an old photo I had tucked under my pillow. My heart raced as I gazed at the smiling faces, my best friend Mia and me grinning like we ruled the world before everything changed. The air in my room felt thick and suffocating, the same walls that once echoed laughter now whispered reminders of betrayal. I could still remember it like it was yesterday, it had all happened a year ago. Ella, come on, just for one night, it will be good for us, Mia's voice danced in my mind. The memory of her coaxing me to join the party loomed large. I had said no, I felt it deep in my gut that something bad would happen. You need to take risks, Ella. Life is too short for regrets, she insisted. I finally relented, the thrill of youth overpowering my instincts. That night, things spiraled out of control. The adrenaline of the party had coursed through me, loud music thumped like a heartbeat, red cups overflowed with cheap beer, and laughter bounced off every wall. But then I spotted them, Mia and Jake, my Jake. They had been flirty all night, but there was a difference in their laughter, a spark that felt like molten iron through my veins. My breath quickened and a sinking feeling lodged itself in my stomach as I watched them on the couch, leaning in close, their whispered secrets trailing like smoke in the air. Ella, don't be a wallflower, dance with me, Mia had shouted, pulling me towards the crowded dance floor. All I could see were them, lost in their world, smugly oblivious to the fracture they were creating in mine. I pulled my hand away, a growing dread pulling at me. No, I can't, I need some air, I muttered. I slipped outside, escaping the music and the chaos, hoping the cool night breeze would soothe the fire igniting inside me. As I stood alone on the porch, the sounds of revelry faded, replaced by the haunting chorus of crickets chirping under the moonlight. The stars twinkled overhead, indifferent to my emotional turmoil. It was then that I heard it, laughter, soft and intimate. Peeking through the window, I saw them, their bodies closed together, tangled in a moment that should have been mine. My heart shattered. Ella, my knees buckled as I turned toward the voice that called out to me. It was Jake. I was looking for you, his eyes sparkled, and for a moment I felt hope, but then his gaze flickered past me and back to Mia, who stood behind him with a grin that dug into my heart like a knife. There you are, we thought you left, Mia sprinted over, her laughter contagious but hollow as I forced a smile. Just needed some air, I replied, my voice trailing off. Lisa, our other friend, joined us, oblivious to the tension saturating the air. Come on, let's take a selfie, she exclaimed, holding her phone high, capturing the distorted reality that we were friends. Inside, I was crumbling. I wanted to scream to push them away, but I merely lifted my chin and played the part. I snapped the photo alongside them, a mask of joy plastered onto my face. The grainy image would remind me of the night I lost everything. And now the party can really start. Jake pulled me into a hug, his warmth enveloping me. I wanted to believe he was still mine, but with every passing second, I felt the ground beneath me shift. I forced laughter through the fog of despair, even as I felt another piece of myself die that night. The party dragged on, chaotic noises blending into a dull roar. People spilled drinks and whispered secrets. I could pretend for a while longer, but I knew it was a lie. Hours later, I grabbed Mia's arm, searching for a moment alone to confront her about the spark that flickered in her eyes whenever she looked at Jake. Can we talk? I asked, my voice low and tight. Sure, is everything okay? She asked, her eyes wide with feigned innocence that sent a surge of unease through me. We slipped into the bathroom, fluorescent lights too bright and unforgiving. What's going on, Mia? I can't shake the feeling that something is off, I said, staring into her eyes, searching for the truth. What do you mean, Ella? She feigned concern, but I knew better. You know exactly what I mean, I pressed, feeling a heat rising in my chest. You and Jake, the way you laughed together, the revelation stung. It had been building for weeks, but I was finally ready to confront it. Oh, come on, you are being ridiculous, Mia laughed, but her voice wavered. We are just friends, you really need to lighten up. The finality in her voice sent a tidal wave of anger rushing through me. That is not just friendship, Mia, I shouted, the tiles under my feet cold and unyielding. You are crossing a line, she stared at me, her eyes flashing with annoyance. Why are you making this into something it is not? You are overreacting. I tried to reason with the image of the two of them together, but Mia's sheer denial had me reeling. I can't be around you right now, I mumbled, stepping back, air thick with unspoken accusations. Mia didn't follow me as I pushed through the crowd and out into the night air. Jarring reality began to settle in as I walked away from the farewell laughter, becoming a shadow that slipped into the dark. I could hear their laughter floating behind me, growing fainter as I distanced myself from both the party and the last shred of normalcy I once had. Each step felt like a release, shedding the weight of friendships that had twisted into a painful affair. As dawn broke, I stood in front of the river running through Oakville. The sunrise turned the water shades of pink and orange, but it felt cold on my skin. I stared at my reflection, dark circles under my eyes mirroring my shattered heart. Betrayal tasted bitter on my tongue, and the enormity of it all began to sink in. It wasn't just my friendship that had been lost, it was my very sense of self. The laughter, the warmth, it was all becoming a memory. I should have listened to my gut. I should have seen it coming, I whispered to myself, the words hanging in the air like a haunting melody. Anger began to churn in my chest, coiling tighter with each passing moment. I would confront them. I thought of how I could go back and reclaim what was stolen, how I would show them I wasn't the weak link in our chain of friendship. My mind raced with possibilities, scenarios, crafting a web of vengeance that would entangle them both. I couldn't let them get away with this. They had taken something precious from me, my trust, my joy, my very self-respect. I took a deep breath, my resolve hardening like steel. This is far from over, I promised to my reflection, the water rippling around me reflecting the turmoil within. I began to step back into the world that had discarded me, determination flooding my veins. I had always been the quiet girl, the one who stayed in the shadows, but now a fire ignited in my belly. I would rebuild myself stronger. I would show them the consequences of betrayal. Revenge would be mine. The morning sun poured through the gaps in my curtains, casting striped shadows across my bedroom floor. The air was thick with the scent of fresh coffee brewing downstairs, and I could almost hear my mother humming as she prepared breakfast. I sat on my bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My dark hair was a mess, wild and untamed, just like the storm of emotions swirling inside of me. Today was the day. I could feel that electric thrill coursing through my veins, the kind that makes your heart race with a mix of excitement and dread. I had spent countless nights planning this moment, imagining every detail, and now it was finally here. I took a deep breath and remembered what had triggered this fiery desire for revenge. The memory of Blake Thompson's laughter echoed in my mind, those mocking, cruel sounds that had pierced my heart when he and his friends humiliated me last Halloween. "Look at Ella trying to be something she is not," he had said, his friends joining in with their jeering laughter. It had crushed me, but I vowed that one day I would turn that humiliation into their worst nightmare. I stood up and dressed slowly, allowing myself to savor the anticipation. I slipped on my black jeans and a fitted crimson top. It made me feel powerful, like I could take on the world. I glanced at my phone, the screen lighting up with a message from Zoe, my best friend. "Hey, are we still on for tonight?" I typed back, "Absolutely, it's time to give Blake and his friends a little surprise." My heart raced as I hit send. I knew that Zoe, with her unwavering support, would be my accomplice tonight. As I moved downstairs, I tried to ignore the butterflies in my stomach. I could hear my mother talking to my little brother Timmy, who was not quite old enough to understand why my mood had shifted so dramatically. "Ella, honey, breakfast is ready." My mom called, her voice sweet and comforting. I forced a smile, but inside my thoughts were consumed by the evening ahead. The plan was carefully crafted, each detail precise. I needed to be calm and collected. Chaos would not serve me well. Sitting at the table, I absent-mindedly pushed my scrambled eggs around on the plate, my mind racing with images of my revenge. Making small talk with my mom felt like a performance. "So what are your plans for today?" she asked, her voice edged with concern. "Just hanging out with Zoe, maybe studying a bit," I replied, keeping my tone light, but she studied my face as if looking for signs. "You seem a little distracted, Ella. Everything okay?" I smiled, but deep down I could feel the tension knotting my stomach. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind," I said, forcing the words out like a hesitant promise. I thought about how much she had always trusted me. How would she react if she knew the truth about my plans? "Make sure you eat something before you head out," she urged me, her motherly instinct evident. "I want you to be strong, you have to take care of yourself." "I will, Mom, I promise," I said, cutting off the conversation as I pushed the plate away and stood up. "I think I will go for a walk." "Okay, just be back in time for dinner," she said, returning to her animated conversation with Timmy. The moment I stepped outside, I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. The fresh air hit my face, and the vulnerability I had felt inside began to fade. I could already picture the evening ahead, buzzing with adrenaline. I grabbed my phone again, texting Zoe, "Meet me at the park in 15. Her reply came almost instantaneously. On my way, I strolled down the familiar streets of Oakville, a town where everyone knew your name. My heart thumped to the rhythm of my footsteps, the sun shining bright, but shadows lurked in the back of my mind. As I turned the corner, I could see Zoe waiting by the old oak tree, her bright purple hair and wide smile instantly drawing me in. "Ella, there you are," she exclaimed, her excitement infectious. "I thought you might bail on me, you have that look in your eyes." "The look of mischief?" I grinned, feeling the tension of my plans slowly ease. "No, the look of someone who is about to unleash chaos," she teased, her eyes twinkling. We exchanged our plans, going over the evening again, words tumbling out of us as we fueled each other's excitement. "Are you sure Blake and his friends will be there?" Zoe asked, her eyebrows raised with concern. "They always hang out by the park on Fridays, trust me," I replied with a confidence that surprised even me. My belief was firm, forged by the tears I had shed over the last 6 months. The memory of Blake's laughter felt raw, but that only stoked the fire of my determination. "What do you even need for this?" Zoe continued, glancing at the backpack I had brought. "Just a few surprises and a plan." I pulled out the items I had spent time gathering, a mix of delicious treats and a couple of well-placed texts to set the stage for chaos later in the evening. I explained how we would lure them in, how I had played it all out, but the most important piece of the puzzle rested on my shoulders. "I will confront them when the moment is right," I said firmly. "I will not give them the satisfaction of seeing me scared." Zoe nodded, her confidence in me unwavering. "You have got this, girl. Remember, it's all about the timing." The park began filling with visitors as the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the grass. I felt a mix of calmness and anticipation as we positioned ourselves near the edge of the field. I could see the play structure where kids were laughing and families were enjoying their weekend. "There's Blake," Zoe whispered, her eyes narrowing. I did not have to look hard to spot him. He stood with his usual group of friends, surrounded by the easy confidence of knowing they ruled the social scene. The way he threw his head back in laughter made my blood boil. I suppressed the urge to scream, to run in there and confront him right away. Instead, I took a deep breath and whispered, "This is it." I felt Zoe's hand on my shoulder, grounding me as my heart raced faster. "Just keep your wits about you." "This isn't a time to lose control," she reminded me, her voice calm. I could hear them joking loudly, throwing comments around like they were the kings of the world, and it made my stomach turn. I can't believe Ella actually thought she could get into the party last week, Blake snickered, his friends chiming in with laughter that echoed in the park. My fists clenched at my sides, so they had forgotten, had they? Just a brief mention in their lives, while the sting of their words had lingered with me for so long. It was time they remembered. Gathering my resolve, I scanned the area, sending a quick message to a couple of other friends who were in on my plan, and as I looked back at the group, I realized the moment had come. Let's go, I said, a determined glint in my eyes. It is time they heard me. Zoe followed, glancing up at me with concern, but also unyielding support. We approached their gathering, slowly at first, and I felt the weight of every step bearing down on me, but also the thrill of finally taking control. As we stepped closer, I could feel my pulse quickening, my blood roaring in my ears. My mind replayed the words I had prepared, what I had wanted to say ever since that night of humiliation. With each step, the laughter faded, their expressions shifting from casual to surprised, finally settling into confusion as they recognized me. Well, if it isn't Ella Rogers, didn't you get the memo? Parties are for cool kids, not losers, Blake shouted, his voice dripping with disdain. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile that felt more like baring my teeth. I think you might need to adjust your definition of cool, Blake. I'm here to remind you of something important. Blake's expression shifted slightly as he glanced at his friends. They were now fully focused on me, their eyes narrowing. What, did you come here to cry again? He sneered, crossing his arms, but I refused to let his words penetrate my armor. No, I am here, Blake, to show you just how foolish the last 6 months have been. You think you can just laugh and bully without consequences? The crowd around us began shifting, murmurs rippling through the group as they sensed the tension rising. What are you going to do, Ella? Start a sad little speech? One of his friends laughed, but now the laughter was tinged with uncertainty. No, I am going to show you exactly what an idiot you are, I replied, my voice steady. I reached into my bag, pulling out the treats I had prepared, holding them high. I remembered how much you loved these cookies, Blake. He furrowed his brow, confusion flickering across his face. What are you talking about? My grin widened as I continued. I hope you like the extra surprise I baked in. And with that, I tossed the cookies into the air. They rained down, exploding in a burst of colorful powder that exploded everywhere, on Blake, on his friends, and on the shocked crowd. The chaos erupted, people recoiled, laughter turning into shrieks of surprise as they scrambled to avoid the colorful mess that began to cover their clothes and their faces. What the? Blake shouted, the surprise registering in his eyes as he looked down to see the chaos unfolding. I couldn't help but laugh, the exhilaration coursing through me like electricity. It was everything I had imagined and more, his disbelief, the sudden panic spreading in his eyes, and the shocking sound of his laughter replaced by outrage. You think this is funny? He yelled, trying to wipe the mess off his shirt. The laughter had shifted, it was no longer directed at me but at him and his friends, the realization of the turn of events sinking in. You wanted to humiliate me? How about a little taste of your own medicine? I shouted, the rush flooding my heart. As I turned to leave with Zoe by my side, all I could hear was the cacophony of voices rising into the air, and it felt like beautiful music. This was just the beginning. Tomorrow I would make sure everyone knew exactly who had the power. Now I stood in the old, creaky barn, the scent of hay and dust swirling around me, clinging to my skin like the memories of the past I was trying to shed. The large wooden beams loomed overhead, shadows dancing as the late afternoon sun streamed through gaps in the walls. It felt haunted, a place echoing with not only the sounds of nature but also the whispers of betrayal. I was supposed to meet Lucas here, my partner in this twisted game of revenge. I couldn't shake the tension gnawing at my insides. I had been plotting revenge against Maya, the girl who had taken everything from me, leaving me with nothing but a hollow ache in my heart. Ella. His voice broke through my swirling thoughts, deep and steady, grounding me as I turned to face him. Lucas leaned against a rickety wooden post, arms crossed, his eyes searching mine. You all right? I don't know if I am, I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. What if all this fails? What if she just laughs at us? I hated how the uncertainty hitched in my throat like a noose tightening. Was I ready to confront Maya, the girl who had once been my closest friend? We planned every detail, remember? You wanted this, he replied, stepping closer. The sunlight cast a warm glow around him, somehow easing the tension in my heart. You need to own it. I know, my heart raced, a drumbeat echoing the anger coursing through my veins. It's just, I can't help but imagine her reaction. I don't want to look weak. Lucas pushed himself off the post and stood tall, the confidence in his stance encouraging. Looking weak? Ella, you're anything but weak. This is all about showing her that she can't just walk over people, you're reclaiming your power. I nodded slowly, still battling my doubts. But what if it goes too far? I don't want to regret it, I muttered, glancing down at the rough wooden floor, memories of our friendship scratching at the back of my mind. Then don't go too far, he said, his tone calm but firm. You're in control of this, remember? Set your boundaries, just think about how she hurt you. He paused, like he was giving me space to breathe. The way she used you but then tossed you aside. You deserve to show her that she can't get away with that. His words struck me like a lightning bolt. I could still feel the warmth of her laughter as we chased sunsets together, only for her to trade it all for popularity and a new crowd. Yeah, I do deserve this. I want her to feel the way I felt when she walked away so easily. That's the spirit, Lucas encouraged, his eyes sparking with a fierce intensity. Let's focus on the plan. Maya's holding a party this weekend, right? This is our chance. We slip in unnoticed, and then he paused dramatically, the mischievous grin spreading on his face. We wreak havoc. What do you have in mind? I felt a tingle of excitement threading through the fear as I met his gaze head on, the idea making my pulse quicken. Simple, he replied, a devilish sparkle dancing in his eyes. We expose her little secrets, make her feel vulnerable, shame her in front of everyone. I laughed, a low, cold sound escaping my lips. Couldn't help it, the thrill of the thought sent shivers down my spine. What secrets? Lucas stepped closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a dark secret. You know how she pretends to be an angel, all sweet with a perfect family? What if we revealed the truth? He leaned in further, and the tension between us crackled like static electricity. That boy Jake, I know he has dirt on her. She's been using him to get what she wants, and I overheard him talking about how she cheated on him. What? Seriously? I blinked, the surprise filling my chest with a heady rush. Totally, she's not as innocent as she pretends. We could use that, get him to spill the details at the party. Lucas straightened up, pacing back and forth in the confined space of the barn, his excitement palpable. That could work, I said slowly, considering it. But how do we even get to him? He's usually glued to her side. Lucas stopped, turning to face me, his expression intense. Leave that to me. Trust me, I can charm him into talking. Plus, he has a little crush on me. I can make him think I have the scoop he needs to deal with Maya, too. The words hung in the air between us like a promise. You really think he will? I know he will. He's bored with the relationship, and who wouldn't want to spill the juicy details on someone like her? Revenge feels good, Ella. The fierceness in his voice made my heart race. I took a deep breath, letting his confidence seep into me, fueling my resolve. Then let's nail this plan, Lucas. I want to see her squirm. Deal, he said, a confident smile crossing his lips. Now we just need to find a way to sneak into the party for the big reveal. I felt electricity course through me as ideas buzzed in my brain. Maybe I could act like I want to rekindle the friendship. I can get close to her again. She loves the attention. I'll make her let her guard down. That's brilliant, Ella. Lucas exclaimed, his admiration warming me in a way I hadn't expected. She won't see it coming. You'll get her to trust you again. You'll be whispering the secrets right before we drop the bombshell. It'll be perfect. I beamed, feeling more powerful than I had in weeks. The rage that fueled my revenge glimmered with golden possibilities. What if I text her and tell her I'm coming? Lure her in with friendship? Definitely, he said, nodding in agreement. Make her think everything is fine. But remember, it has to be convincing. If she gets suspicious, it could ruin our whole plan. Right. Doubt crept back as I started picturing how Maya would react, how easily she could pierce through my act with that sharp gaze of hers. I need to be good at playing this then. I don't want to crack under pressure. You won't. You have everything it takes and you know the routine, Lucas assured, the belief in his voice bolstering me. Be friendly but not overly eager. Keep her talking and the information flow. Get her comfortable. This is your moment, Ella. I took in a deep breath, feeling the weight of the impending confrontation settle over me. Yeah, my moment, I echoed softly, the words tasting foreign on my tongue. I hated what she had made me into, but I was ready. The blood that pumped through my veins felt thicker than tar, filled with purpose. Listen, Lucas said, pulling me from my reverie. Meet me here tomorrow to finalize everything. We will work on the details, and then we can put the plan into action. Okay? My heart drummed steadily as exhilaration bolstered my spirits. I can do this. As I stepped out of the barn, the sunlight poured over me, wrapping me in a warm embrace. I felt different, as if I had finally taken control of my own narrative. I may have been the victim before, but tomorrow I would take my chance to reclaim what was mine. The road ahead glimmered with potential, sparking my anger into something fierce and burning. I could almost see Maya, her confident smile crumbling as I struck true at her heart. I would make her remember my name, and my pain would transform into a roar. The cool evening air wrapped around me as I stood in front of the old brick building, the shadows of fading daylight painting the world in hues of gray and blue. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest, every beat pulsing with the intensity of my next move. The place had seen better days, but to me it now looked like a fortress of memories. I could still picture Mark and Tyler roughhousing in the parking lot, skateboard wheels clattering against concrete while I watched from the sidelines, always quiet, always the girl who kept her head down. I clenched my fists at my sides, remembering how that had all changed. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of dust and stale beer, a scent that dripped with nostalgia and resentment. I stepped through the doorway and flicked the dusty light switch. The single bulb flickered to life, casting an eerie glow that danced along the brick walls. I could hear the faint echo of laughter, but now it sounded different, distorted and distant, a relic of happier times now overshadowed by betrayal. I was here to reclaim my power, to turn the tide of pain into something much more fearsome. Ella? The voice startled me, coarse and low, reverberating off the walls like a ghost from my past. I turned, my heart skipping a beat at the sight of Tyler, his familiar form outlined against the dim light. What are you doing here? For a split second, I considered stepping back, retreating into the shadows where I felt safer, but I refused. I came to talk, I said, forcing calm into my voice. You owe me that much, don't you? He shifted uneasily, hands shoved deep into the pockets of his faded jeans. What's there to talk about? You know what happened. It's not like I made the decision. I was just there, I echoed, my voice climbing higher, laced with emotion. Just there as you stood by and watched Mark run my life into the ground, just there as you laughed while my world crumbled. He stepped closer, eyes narrowing. You need to stop taking this out on me. I didn't know, I interrupted, the anger bubbling within me like an angry volcano ready to erupt. You didn't stop it either. You didn't say anything when he pushed me around. When he smiled at me and then dragged my name through the mud with his stupid friends. I was scared, okay? Tyler almost shouted, the vulnerability cracking through his bravado. You think it was easy? Everyone looked up to him. I felt trapped. Trapped, I repeated, wrinkling my nose. You think that's an excuse? You stood there, comfortable in your little bubble while I was in a constant storm. You did nothing, Tyler. You chose your loyalty to him over your friendship with me. You had a choice. There was a silence that stretched between us, heavy and charged. I could see the internal battle on his face, the conflict between his conscience and his ingrained need for acceptance. Ella, I didn't know how to intervene. Mark was, well, he was a bully, and you always seemed so strong, so capable of handling your problems. Strong? I scoffed, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. I was drowning, you just didn't see it, or maybe you didn't want to. My chest felt tight, every rational thought clouded by the years of hurt and betrayal. You think I put on a brave face because I wanted to? I did it because I had to, and you had a front row seat to my unraveling and just sat there, content in your own cowardice. Ella, stop. Tyler's voice dropped an octave, heavy with urgency. You have to understand, I never meant for any of this to happen. I always liked you, I just didn't know how to handle the situation. Like me. I narrowed my eyes, taking in the mastery of his words and the way he shifted his weight from one foot to the other as if seeking a way out. My heart twisted uncomfortably at his confession, but this was no time for old feelings. Your affection doesn't erase the scars, Tyler. You can't just throw me a few compliments and hope that will fix everything. Tyler stepped back like my words were a painful slap. I didn't say I was perfect. I know I messed up, okay, but you need to let this go. What do you want from me? What do I want? I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, anger mingling with something else, something that resembled hurt and grief for the friendship we once had. What I want isn't the point. What you need to understand is that I want justice, not for just me, but for everyone he has ever mistreated because he's always gotten away with it. Do you even hear yourself? Tyler frowned, crossing his arms over his broad chest, taking on a defensive stance. You can't just waltz in here and expect to undo the past. People aren't puppets, Ella. You can't pull strings to get revenge on them and think everything will be fine afterward. Maybe not, I admitted, my voice softening just for a moment, but I can make sure he pays for what he's done. It's not just about me anymore, Tyler. It's about stopping him from doing this to anyone else. The silence that followed was thick, permeated with the weight of our unresolved past. I could sense his hesitation, and I fought the urge to reach out to soften the edges of the conversation with the warmth of memories. But I knew better. Look, I finally said, dropping my voice to a whisper laced with vindication. You've seen what he can do. You have a choice right now to be a part of this. You can help me. Tyler's gaze dropped to the floor as if he were studying the cracks in the concrete, his brow furrowing deeply. Help you how? Simple. I need intel, dirt on Mark, crumbs to use against him. I leaned in closer, fueled by the potential of it all. What does he hide? What does he fear? If you really want to make amends, help me take him down. Ella, you're asking me to betray him, Tyler said, hesitation lacing his voice. I mean, sure, he's terrible, but I don't know if I can do that. It's like I would be turning against my friends, and they are not your friends, I interrupted, frustration simmering within me. They are a group of bullies keeping one another propped up while they harass anyone weaker. Isn't that what you have been doing too, hiding behind their reputations, letting them dictate your decisions? That's not true, Tyler laughed, an edge of desperation creeping into his tone. I can't just decide to be well-liked one day and play the victim the next. Then take a stand, I urged, pouring every ounce of sincerity I could muster into my words. The friend you always thought you were instead of the coward you've become, this is a chance to do something that matters. Together we can pull Mark down. You know he's not worth your loyalty. I don't know, Tyler confessed, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind, wrestling with his identity and morals. This is huge. What if we mess it up? What if he finds out? Let him find out, I claimed fiercely, my heart racing at the thought of what we could accomplish. I'm not afraid of him anymore, Tyler. He can't touch me, not when I've already felt the worst. But you can decide to help me. What you do next can either continue the cycle of fear or break it. The determination that rolled off my tongue felt electrifying, coursing through my veins like a lifeline. Deep down, I hoped for him to step closer, to share that weighty burden of revenge. But I saw the doubt flutter in his eyes like a bird trapped inside a cage. Suddenly, he ran a hand through the thick mess of his hair, pacing in circles like a caged animal, and my heart sank. I'll think about it, all right, but I need some time. I inhaled sharply, the hope flickering inside me as he backed away. Time? How much? Just give me a few days. He glanced over his shoulder, focusing on the empty doorway behind us, anxiety writ large on his face. I'll let you know what I decide, but I think I need to talk to Mark too. I felt the weight of disappointment settle upon my shoulders like a heavy cloak, but I nodded. All right, a few days, that's all I can ask for right now. Tyler hesitated at the doorway for a moment, caught between the past and the unknown, but he ultimately turned and left, footsteps echoing softly in the cavernous space. I leaned back against the cool brick, pressing my palms against my eyes to push back the burning heat of frustration. I had fought so hard for this, and yet it felt so far away. The fight was not over, not yet. Tonight was just one step in a long and winding road ahead. And I would be ready for the darkness when it came, armed with memories, determination, and the faint hope that I could pull Tyler away from Mark's grasp. I stood at the edge of the abandoned playground, the moonlight whispering secrets across the rusted swings and chipped slide. The air hung thick with an eerie stillness, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling inside my heart. I wiped the dampness from my palms on my jeans, tasted the metallic tang of dread in my mouth. Tonight was the night I had waited for, when all my planning and plotting finally culminated into one crucial moment. Just a few days ago, I was a girl racked with hurt and frustration, nursing wounds left by those who claimed to be friends. Now I was transformed, hardened by betrayal, and driven by a desperate need for justice, no revenge. A flash of movement caught my attention. My breath quickened. Anyone there? I called out, my voice echoing against the cold steel of the jungle gym. Silence swallowed my words, but I knew I wasn't alone. Nice spot you picked, Ella, a familiar voice taunted from the shadows. It was Janie, her laugh ringing like a bell chime that had grown dull with neglect. She stepped into the light, a smirk spreading across her face, arms crossed, a vision of confidence that matched her reputation as Oakville's queen bee. Did you think hiding here would keep you safe? Safe from what? I challenged, my pulse racing. I wasn't going to back down now. I just came to confront you, Janie, about everything. Oh, feisty today, aren't we? You really think you stand a chance? She toyed with a strand of her perfect hair, the glossy strands catching the light just enough to emphasize her poised comfort in this confrontation. I'm not here to fight, I replied, taking a cautious step forward, determined to hold my ground. I want you to understand what you did to me, what you did to Kara. And how that betrayal felt. Janie flipped her hair over her shoulder. Betrayal? You mean standing up for myself? You should have known better than to trust someone like Kara. The sting of her words hit hard, but I pushed through the hurt, the memories flashing in my mind, the laughter we had shared, the secrets we entrusted to each other. You were supposed to be my friend, Janie. You used all of us to get what you wanted, power, popularity, all at the cost of genuine friendships. Oh, please. She waved a dismissive hand, her eyes glittering with amusement. Friends are just stepping stones in this game we call life. If I had let someone like you hold me back, I would never have made it to the top. Your top is built on lies. I felt the anger bubbling over, fueled by the memories of endless nights curled up in bed, sobbing over her betrayal. You used me, Janie. You spread rumors about Kara and made sure she took the fall for everything. You ruined her life, and yet here you are still clutching at the past. She shot back, a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth as if she found my pain amusing. Let me guess, you brought me out here to threaten me, to show me the error of my ways. My heart raced. Part of me wanted to scream, to unleash all that frustration and grief that had coiled within me for far too long, yet I clung to the plan I meticulously crafted. Actually, no, I brought you out here to show you something else. Just then, the bushes rustled behind her, and I struggled to keep my expression neutral. Moments before, I had set the stage, orchestrating her embarrassment. You remember those photos, don't you? The ones you thought you deleted? Her smirk faltered for a quick second, and I took the moment to step closer, the adrenaline surged through my veins. What I did tonight is just a preview. Stop it, Ella, she shouted, her bravado fading as realization clawed at her. You wouldn't, but before she could finish her sentence, I pulled out my phone and swiped through the images. A large grin spread across my face as I selected a few of the scandalous photos, those she thought only she and her minions had access to. Do you think everyone deserves to be humiliated like you did, Kara? Torn apart for your entertainment? I pressed play on the slideshow, and the flickering images illuminated the darkness, showcasing everything I had compiled, photos of Janie at her most vulnerable moments, her secret slip-ups laid bare. The first image settled on the screen, her drunken night at the Lakeview party, cringing at the sight of herself leaning against the bar, mascara running down her face. I turned my phone toward her, my anticipation growing as I watched the shock flicker in her eyes. What is this? Her voice wavered, the confidence she wore like a shield now cracking under the weight of her own history. Your past colliding with your present, Janie. It feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? I felt satisfaction surge through me as I continued the display. Each smear of vulnerability I revealed was a step closer to reclaiming my power. You wanted to play a game, right? Well, two can play at that. You think this will get to me? She hissed, but her composure slipped further with every glance at the images. No one will take you seriously. That's where you're wrong. Each image played on the screen like a judge's gavel, marking the end of her rule and my silence. Your followers will turn against you, Janie. When they see you for who you really are, when the mask finally lifts, they will take joy in your humiliation just like you did to Kara. Shut this off. You are making a mistake, she shrieked, panic spilling through her every word. You can't do this. I locked eyes with her, the delicious thrill of justice electrifying the air around me. I already did. You made your choices, and now it is time for you to face the consequences. This is your moment to see what being the queen bee truly means. Ella, you have no idea what you're doing. You don't want this. She took a step back, desperation clinging to her voice like a final please. I know exactly what I am doing. My lips curled into a determined smile as I watched the fear permeate her features. I just hope you enjoy the show, just like you forced me to watch yours. The night around us felt charged with tension, the playground seeming to hold its breath as I reveled in the transformation of our roles. I had gone from the one silenced and embarrassed to force, a reckoning that could not be ignored. Somewhere deep down, a part of me felt small, a remnant of the girl who had once sought connection through kindness. But that part was quickly overshadowed by the victory unfolding before my eyes. I was not looking for forgiveness or understanding, but for justice served cold. And as the images continued to flash, driving my point home, I knew in that moment that the thrill of revenge was something I could hardly ever regret. Ella, she pleaded, the bravado crumbling as her eyes glistened with tears. I thought we were better than this. You thought wrong. I let the silence linger between us as I thrust my phone forward one last time, determined to mark the conclusion of this chapter in our twisted friendship. You will never be better than this. Your reign ends here, Janie, and I am going to make sure everyone sees it. The shadows of the playground danced in the moonlight, mirroring the final stand between us. With a final tap, I shared the images with her entire social media network, the weight of 1,000 burdens lifting from my shoulders as the world shifted beneath her feet. Goodbye, Janie, I whispered, my heart pounding not with fear but with a satisfaction I never knew I could feel. Time for her to learn the lesson she so easily dished out. I turned on my heel and walked away, carrying with me a heart lightened by the sweet taste of vengeance.